All right, welcome and thank you for joining us for tonight's hockey Officiate Michigan Day presentation. It's entitled Positioning for the Referee and Linesman, the Importance of Positioning. Tonight's presenter is Jim Garofalo, excuse me, a longtime ice hockey official at all levels. And I'd like to turn it over to him and take it away, Jim.
Thanks, Brett. Thanks for inviting me out. And just to give you guys a little bit of background, I spent some time doing Division I college. I was about 8 years working in the CCHA. Had close to 20 years in the OHL, working at that level. I don't want to admit how long I worked in the American League and the IHL. And I've also done some international stuff, some world tournaments and some other, I guess, for lack of a better term, high profile tournaments. So a lot of what I'm going to give you is what I've drawn from a lot of different levels. And we have put together kind of an evaluation format that we use at the semifinals and the finals. So if you get to Plymouth and you get in a semifinal or a final assignment, I'm one of the guys that's probably going to come down and talk to you before the game, maybe possibly during the game and after the game, and talk to you about positioning and things like that. So we're trying to give you guys some ways to improve on things. One of the big things that we've noticed over the last 4 or 5 years of doing these evaluations really comes down to the importance of making sure that we're in the right spots. And positioning doesn't just start when the game starts. Positioning starts from the very, very, very time you step onto the ice at the warm-up. Okay, as you come onto the ice, that's your time to kind of tell the coaches and the players and the people that are there that you're there, you're ready to go, and this is an important thing that you want to do. You want to be professional, so you want to hit the ice. Some guys like to get onto the ice and they kind of slide along the boards over to where the penalty box is, and they stand there and they talk a little bit, and it's super important to hit that ice like you really, really want to be there. And it shows the coaches, it shows the people that are there that you're excited to be there. You want to show professionalism. You don't have to do it's not a full out sprint. Do a couple hard laps and then take up a position. We should be watching players coming onto the ice wherever they're exiting and entering. And I'm going to be working between kind of 2 different systems. We have the normal 3-man system or 3 official system that we work with most of the time. And then we also have the 4 official system for the playoffs and the semifinals and the finals. So we'll be working between those 2 systems. If we're working the typical 3 official system, we're going to want to have guys by the doors where the players are coming in. It could be 1 referee. Maybe the veteran referee is going to stay out to center ice, and we have a second referee down by 1 door, and we have a linesman by another door. Okay, just be there, let the guys know that you're there, and we can eliminate a lot of things. During the warm-up, again, we don't really want to have that kind of meeting at center ice. We don't need to have that meeting at center ice. If we have something to talk about, let's get that taken care of before the game. If we see something that we need to discuss, maybe we have a goalie that doesn't have a flapper or wearing an illegal face mask, then we can get together and discuss that, how we're going to handle it. But we should be near the benches, monitoring that warm up and making sure we don't have people crossing and trouble starting. Okay, so positioning really begins even before the game starts for everybody, and making sure that you're just by standing someplace, you can prevent a lot of stupid things from happening, a lot of crazy stuff. All right. Okay. And my PowerPoint isn't, here we go. All right. The main idea is you can't call what you can't see. All right. So by positioning ourselves properly, we're going to be able to make the best judgment of what is going on. We have the opportunity to see an infraction. we have the opportunity to, let's see if I can do something here. All right, there we go. We have the opportunity to make sure that we make the proper call. Was it a stick lift that hit the guy in the face? Accidental? We may not call that the same as just the stick coming up and going right into the guy's face. We may call that a little differently. It's going to lead to a much safer game because we're not going to miss the injury potential penalty. Was it a check from behind or was it from the side? Did he go directly into the boards or did he go into the ice? All right. So we may have, we're going to get a better look at things, and that will give us some options and make sure that we get the right penalty for that play. It's going to allow us to see the entirety of the play. All right. And especially, again, to allow the proper enforcement of infractions. Was it a stick on stick play, or was the stick on the player? Did he get him in the hands, or did he get below the bottom hand and just make contact on the stick? Some of those may be penalties, some of those may not be penalties, but you can't call it if you can't see it. So we definitely want to be in the proper positions, and we'll get into things that we can do to improve our positioning. Okay, proper positioning allows it. Geez, this is going the wrong way. There we go. All right, ways to improve our positioning. All right, we're going to start off with some very general things, and then I'm going to specifically go to linesmen and then referees. But you're improving your skating ability is one of the best things that you can do to improve your positioning. And the big thing especially is backwards. And with this move now that we have with a 4 official system, skating backwards for referees is extremely important. I'm going to stop right here. I'm going to pause in certain spots to give you guys a chance to ask questions if you have anything. This will be put on. It's being recorded. It is going to be the MHSA is going to post it on July 31st, and you will be able to get some copies of this PowerPoint if you would like it. All right. One of the things that helps improve our positioning, use the experience that you have from the game. We've all played, some of us have coached, we've all seen lots of games. You know what the game is, how the game should be played, and what's going on. You can anticipate what's going to happen. You can anticipate things that are happening. You also should be able to feel what's happening in the game. You can feel the game get more intense. You can feel the physicality of the game start to increase, and you need to respond to that. So use your experience. If you're standing in a corner and the team sets up a power play, all right, that might not be your best place. All right, they're working around you and you may be getting in the way. Right, you may want to position yourself in a different place, and we'll get into those details later. All right, this is a big one that you're going to hear me talk a lot about tonight, the field of vision. Okay, you want to create and maintain a wide field of vision at all times. You want to be able to see as many players and as much of the ice surface as you possibly can. At best, we have two referees on the ice that can call penalties, and we have 12 guys on the ice. So we have to be able to see as many players at all times as we can. And that's created by squaring your shoulders or positioning your chest to the play so that you can see as much of the rink as possible. All right, now we're going to talk about creating a field of vision here. All right, your chest should always point to the play. If you think about being on some kind of a turntable, all right, that's a really good idea to get in your head for this. You should never be standing still on the ice. You should always be moving and always be rotating. Your shoulders should be square to the play. You should never be looking down your shoulder or back over your shoulder. Everything should be in front of you, okay? You'll see much more of the rink. You'll see many more players, and you're going to have a much easier time figuring out, is that an infraction I need to take? And at what level is that infraction? What level do I have to penalize that? I'll give you a rule of thumb. Rule of thumb for maintaining a wide field of vision, okay? If the play is on your side of the rink and you're near the boards, you should have a shoulder towards the boards and looking straight down the rink. Now, as that play moves and it begins to move to the other side of the rink, you should be moving your shoulders and your body with it. So if the puck is completely on the opposite side of the rink, you should have your back to the boards. You never want to have what they call flat back, which means you have your back to the boards and you're just moving your head. You want to be moving your body at all times. It's going to give you the best chance to see your best wide field of vision. All right, I'm going to stop here. If you have any questions on field of vision or starting the games or anything like that, if you just want to unmute and chime in, that would be great. Let's see if I can get my grid here.
Hi, Garth.
Hi, Dan.
How are you?
I'm doing well. You?
Well, thank you. Would another easy thing to remember be that point your belly button or your belt at the puck at all times?
Yeah, any way you want to think about it. I like to use my chest. I try to keep my chest, belly button. It's the same thing. Keep your belt buckle, your belly button, your chest, point your hips, however you want to think about it. It's really going to accomplish the same thing. And again, keeping that wide field of vision so you can see as much of the ice, as much of the players as you can. Good question. Anybody else have anything? All right, let's talk about the linesman positioning. And again, there's a ton of stuff we can go into. I will go as deep into this as you want to, but we certainly, I certainly have a few notes that I want to talk about, a few things that I want to bring up. All right, linesman, you want to be close to the boards, but you don't want to be on them. Many times teams will try to rim the puck out of the zone. And if you have your skates to the boards, you're going to get hit. There's times where players are in your way. There's times where the puck gets deflected. If you are off the boards 6 to 10 inches, you have the best opportunity for the puck to miss you. And you may be able to get out of the way, but sometimes the puck's moving so fast, all you want is the puck to simply miss you. So 6 to 10 inches off the boards allows that puck to miss you. It allows the players to play around you. And you don't have to be in the play. They can bank the puck off the boards and move around you, and you don't have to be in the way. So we want to be near the boards, not on the boards. Again, shoulders square to the play. Linesmen, you need to have as much field of vision as possible, especially in the intense, very physical games, because you may need to help the referees out with what was going on. How did that start? What are those two guys doing over there? Again, be aware of things away from the play. It's easy, especially as a linesman, to start kind of puck follow, but you want to be aware of things away from the play. At the end of the game, is it a close game, or is somebody going to pull the goalie? Back linesman needs to be aware of that. Penalty, referee puts his arm up for a penalty. Somebody's going to pull the goalie. We should be seeing that. Players battling away from the puck. Referees down in the corner, and we have play down around the corner, and we've got two guys going on it, getting after each other in front of the net. You want to be able to go to the referee if he needs some help and say, here's what we've got. We've got a cross check and a rough. Player A cross checked him, player B turned around and punched him in the head. All right. So now we've seen that we can assess penalties. Right. Special situations. Beginning and end of game. Again, we kind of touched on this a little bit. Be near the benches, especially at the end of the periods. In the one linesman system, you're going to have to work with your partners. I've got blue, you take red. Get to the benches, hold the benches. Nobody should be coming off the benches right away at the end of the period, especially in the second period. So be near the benches if you can at the end of periods, and hold those benches. Sometimes if you get a whistle toward the end of the period, remind the coaches, hey, nobody off the bench until we let you off the bench. Line changes, especially in the second period. You don't have to be at the benches, but even just being in the middle of the line changes and skating through the line changes, just your physical presence being there is going to prevent problems, especially in the second period as those teams are crisscrossing. Be near the bench. It may not be so important in a game where things are going pretty easy and there's not a whole lot of physical things going on, but in a game, it's maybe a rivalry game or a game where things are getting very physical. Being near the benches will allow you to, one, hear some of the chirping going on between the players, possibly maybe see a cheap shot, somebody tries to stick somebody. You're near there, gives you the best chance to see something like that. Escorting penalized players. With 2 linesmen, that's really easy. The linesman not dropping the puck takes the penalized player to the penalty box, and we do that in almost every situation. With one linesman, it's a little more a kind of a case-by-case situation where you're going to need to, if it's an aggressive foul or the player, you can tell the player is going to be chirping at the referee calling the penalty. You may want to definitely escort that player and make sure just another set of ears. So if something happens, we have to assess more penalties, or the player starts to not want to get in the penalty box, you can show them where the box is and help them figure out which penalty box to get into. Pulled goalie late in the game, again on the delayed penalty. Point to the bench that you're watching. That lets the bench know that you're watching them. That lets the players know that you're watching them. Everybody in the building knows that you're watching them. And once they get to a place where the change is good, drop your hand. Again, it's just something simple that allows everybody to know that you've watched it, you've witnessed it. They can't then turn around and say, nobody saw the change and the change was early. No, I watched it. It was good. I had the point. I dropped my hand when the player came on the ice properly. This is an important one, especially with certain coaches. If we have to go to the bench for a conversation, whether it be a referee going or a linesman going, there should be another official there. Sometimes coaches will like to try to twist things that you said or accuse you of saying things that you didn't say. It's always good to have another set of ears there. So if you're a linesman going to the bench and the referee is having a conversation, you don't even need to look at what's going on. You can just stand there with your back, watch the players, and just listen to what's being said. So that if somebody accuses somebody of saying something, I was standing right there. He did not say that. They did not say that. All right. In the 2 referee, 1 linesman system, it may not be the linesman depending on face-off location and whatnot. But we definitely want to have at least another official over there. It might have to be the other referee if it's not the linesman because he's doing something else. The other special situation, and I don't think I have it in here, is face-off locations after a penalty. Okay, if at all possible, we don't want to put the referee that just called the penalty in front of the team he just called the penalty on, if at all possible. So we can face off, a puck frozen at the goal, and we have a face off. You can take that puck to the other side if it's possible. In situations where you might have a coach that's getting a little heated, and get that referee away from the bench. All right, that's just a little bit of awareness, and that will help the referees out, and that will tend to let the coach cool down a little bit and maybe not escalate the situation into where we may have to call penalties. All right.
Hey, Garb, can I chime in something really quick?
Sure. I was going to stop here anyway.
Okay, yeah, this is Katie Madsen. I think these are all really good points. One thing that I just wanted to add on that, when a team is pulling the goalie and you're pointing to the bench or I normally just follow the goalie is what I do. But I think that one thing that I've found helpful is to keep your arm up, even as soon as you're going to call that premature goalie substitution, keep your arm up. And then that way, when the referee looks back at you, they see your arm is still up. The goalie did substitute prematurely. Everyone in the rink knows, do not put your arm down when you blow the whistle.
And I wouldn't even go with arm up, because the linesman arm up in different situations means different things.
Pointing, pointing.
Yes,
keep it pointing.
yes, absolutely.
Not arm up, but pointing. Yes.
Point at that bench. If you're shutting it down, leave that arm out, point to that bench. And
Yeah.
then once you have everybody's attention, we're going to center ice because it's premature.
Yep,
Absolutely.
exactly. Yeah. Yep, that was all I wanted to say. Just like keep your arm up while you blow it, and then afterwards, then it's like, okay. Like,
Yeah,
don't
it's
just
hard to
drop it
argue.
before you blow it.
It's hard to argue why did you blow the whistle when you're standing there pointing at something.
Yes, exactly. Thanks. That was
that's a
all
good
I
point.
wanted to chime in.
Hey, Garth.
Yeah,
So depending on the system we're using, and I'm not sure which system Katie was referring to, because they may be using something more frequently in different areas of the state, but mainly with us in the Metro Detroit area, we're using a 2 referee, 1 linesman system in the regular season. So taking that same situation that Katie just mentioned, and more often than not, the referee is going to be the back official as a play leaves a zone and gains the
Yes.
offensive zone. Your linesman is going to be responsible for the far blue line, hopefully, and the other referee will be deep. But the back referee is the one in the neutral zone that's going to be minding, if you will, the goalie substitution.
yes.
So in that case, again, similar to Katie's question, in that case, a referee pointing, are we going to have the referee point? Because in different situations, that referee's going to have to be watching perhaps a penalty, or if there's a turnover and offside, now that he's got the near blue line where the play just left.
I would say that in that situation, if the referee has got that line change, the point is good to let everybody know that you have it. Now, if something happens and we have a change in possession and potentially a penalty or something like that, then the point goes into the delayed penalty signal or something like that. But I think it's important for the players to know I'm watching that line change.
Would you recommend something verbal as well, like goalie change?
Yes.
Good.
Yes, definitely. It never hurts to verbalize. Sometimes we can verbalize too much, but in that situation, it's always good. Make a good change, make a good change, make a good change, good change. Verbalize, let people know what's going on. Excellent. Good questions. All right, anything else on linesmen? All right, let's talk about the referee a little bit here. Again, field of vision for referees is absolutely critical. You can't see it if you can't call it, or you can't call it if you can't see it. And then also, what you saw is going to be, yeah.
Sorry for interrupting. It's Dan again. Just to make sure, before we move on from the linesman, again, depending on the system, we're using the 2 referee, 1 linesman system. I think it's imperative that referees realize a linesman cannot cover every line call in that system. It's impossible. You could be Jim Garofalo from 30 years ago and you still couldn't do it.
No.
You could be Logan Hollow from Grand Rapids. Joey Hutek, he couldn't do it. So I think it's imperative that referees realize linesmen are so essential to accurate calls on the ice, but they have to read the back blue line. The linesman's going to make a decision of whether or not he's leaving his current blue line and flowing to the next blue line. The referees have to read that and be able to help that linesman out for accurate coverage.
Absolutely. It is the responsibility of the referee to get that blue line if the linesman is not going to be there with the 1 linesman in the system with 1 linesman. Again, that field of vision, having that wide field of vision allows you not only to read the players and the play, but to see where your partners are.
Right.
So again, that's very critical to have that referee with that wide field of vision, so he can see. He may need to see across the ice, or he may need to see up the boards to see my partner's not going to be able to get to this line. I need to get up here and slow down a little bit and make sure I'm in position to make this call.
Right. In a perfect world, if we had, schools willing to pay for 4 officials, then some of these points would be moot because everybody has their distinct jobs and the linesmen fulfill so many things, being icings and offsides, that the referees are dedicated to watching just penalties.
Right.
But in the 2-in-1 system, which is probably the most challenging system, I just felt before we moved on that I had to make that point.
Nope, that's fine. And in the perfect world, we'd have plenty of guys to referee the formats and use the 4 official system too. So.
Right.
All right, so keeping that wide field of vision, again, square your belt buckle to the play, your shoulders to the play, however, whatever works for you, thinking about it, that's what we want to do is get squared to the play so we can have as much view of the ice surface and as many players as possible. All right, this mouse is just driving me crazy. Back referee, let's talk about the back referee first. You are going to follow the last attacking player out of the zone. That is your responsibility. We should never have a situation where 3 guys or 4 guys on the ice are looking at each other going, why is that player laying down on the ice? I never saw it. Okay, you have to follow that last attacking player out of the zone. And there's a couple of reasons for that. The big one is the safety of the players, and you don't want to miss that cheap shot that somebody got injured on. The other thing is, if there's a transition in the neutral zone, you are responsible for covering that blue line that the play just left. So the linesman has already moved up to the next blue line in the one linesman system. You've got to be there to make sure that if that play transitions and comes back into the zone, somebody's there to make an offside call. So you have to follow that last attacking player out. And again, read the play a little bit. You can see the breakdown and the turnover, get up to that blue line so that you can make a call on that blue line. As the back referee, even with in the 2-referee 1 linesman system, the main responsibility is going to be players away from the puck. All right, the deep referee will have the puck area, the area around the puck and the players around the puck. The back referee's main responsibility has to be those players away from the puck. Is it a 2-on-2 with a guy coming hard to make it a 3-on-2? And somebody's got a stick in his gut, or somebody's got a grab of a jersey. Okay, we need to be able to see that, and those penalties should be called. Okay, so your main responsibility is watching the players away from the puck. In the end zone, same thing. The deep referee would have the players and play around the puck. The high referee should be watching in front of the net and things like that. Now, we're going to get into a little bit of talking about some teamwork with the referees, since it is 2 referees calling penalty. And we'll talk about some things there. But basically, we're looking at the main responsibility of the referee behind the play is stuff away from the puck. Position is going to be away from the boards. Referees should not be getting in the way with the linesman. You shouldn't have to worry about bumping into the linesman. You should be far enough outside the boards or away from the boards where you can see more, and you can have that wide field of vision. Okay. I've seen where we have, the back referee right on the boards, or, within 5 or 6 feet of the boards. You have all kinds of freedom out there. And what determines how far from the boards you're going to be is your skating ability. If you're a good backwards skater, you can be out to center ice if you want to. If you're not a very good backwards skater, and this is where you got to be honest with yourself, you certainly don't want a fast break and be playing the third defenseman. So you're not going to be quite as far away from the boards, but you should be far enough away where you don't have to worry about the linesman and getting in the linesman's way of him moving or him interfering with your field of vision. Again, position between the red line and the blue line that the play is at. Again, your skating ability determines how far out, and in some places it might be even the rink determines how far out. I know that in Plymouth they have an Olympic size sheet. So in Plymouth, I'm not as far away from the boards. I'm not as close to center ice as I would be in just a regular NHL style rink, which is much shorter, much narrower, and not quite as wide. But again,
hey Garth,
yeah.
would you recommend that neutral zone official keeps moving?
Yep.
Because sometimes, anyone that's worked either of these systems, when there's more than one referee, it's easy for that neutral zone official to daydream or puck watch and stop, actually. And then something unexpected, a deflection comes, and all of a sudden the play's right on top of you and you can't get started quickly. Would you recommend like small figure eights, kind of just keeping
Yeah.
some movement so you're able to, go ahead, if you want
Yeah,
to.
you definitely don't want to be flat-footed and standing still. Okay, and especially if you get that fast break, if you're flat-footed, you're going to be playing the third defenseman. So you have to be moving, and again, keeping your shoulders square to the play, and see as much of that end zone as you can. But you should be moving, and some guys do little figure eights. I think the little figure eights is probably the best way to go, because you can transition off that little figure eight very easily. To get into the backwards mode and you can use some of that momentum that you have from your little figure eights to pick up speed and get into position at that far blue line if you need to. Yep. We should never, as referees, be standing still in any place, whether we're the deep referee or the high referee. We should never really be standing still. We should always be moving a little bit. Even on the goal line, we should be there should be some movement for us down there. All right, anticipate your partner. And this we could, if we were doing linesmen, I would tell you the same thing in the linesman with 2 linesmen in the 4 official system. You have to anticipate your partner either getting hung up in the play or maybe getting body checked or getting hung up in a line change in front of the boards. As the referees, you may need to anticipate your partner needing to move sides of the net, okay, so that you can be moving as they're moving, okay? And that way we don't have 2 referees on the same side of the ice. Now, that being said, it's not the worst thing in the world to have 2 referees on the same side of the ice for a short amount of time. So we don't have to be super in a hurry to get across the ice, all right? We can have the back referee coming up on the same side of the ice as the front referee. And if you're the back referee and you see that, it's okay to go across the ice. Make sure you're reading the play. Make sure the puck is going to get deep. Skate across the ice. If that doesn't happen, then that front referee can slide around the back of the net if they need to. And we'll talk about that little move there in a little bit. So anticipate your partner possibly needing you to get to cover for him and getting hung up. One place we don't ever want to stop. And you know what, I'm going to save that for the front referee. Okay, again, anticipate partner getting trapped so that you can cover. This happens sometimes with line changes, especially when you have the referees that are working in front of the benches. All right, questions on the back referee positioning? Because I want to start the front referee here in a minute. Dan, you got anything?
I'm thinking,
Not right now. I think I'm good, but thank you for asking.
Katie, how about you? You got anything for me?
How about Greg Hames?
I don't see him. Oh, Greg Hames is here. All right, let's go to the front referee a little bit.
Boy, Garth, I do have a question I thought of.
Okay.
Again, I keep focusing on our regular season because we do so many games with the 2 referee, 1 linesman system. I guess the toughest communication transition, if you will, is the back referee and the linesman at the far blue line. And wouldn't you agree that in that 2-and-1 system, which is, again, probably the most difficult system of any in hockey officiating, they need to be in sync. And that means not that the linesman is humping to get there. The linesman needs to be there before the play. And if he or she cannot do that back referee has got to stay and call that blue line.
Yeah, and that's probably, talking to coaches and players, that's probably the one place that if we're missing plays or we're not in great position to make a call, that's the spot right there where,
right,
you know, did the referee leave too early and the linesman wasn't quite there, and you know, I'm at the top of the circles and I'm just kind of making a guess, and that's
right,
really what it is.
Right.
yeah, it's relative. It's super important to make sure that back blue line gets covered by somebody, whether it be a referee or a linesman.
Thank you.
All right, and I do have a communications part in here where I'm going to talk about the communication between the front referee and the back referee when we get to penalties. All right, skating backwards into the zone. Super important, even in the 2 referee, 1 linesman system. And then we're talking about a normal game where the linesman has gotten there to cover the blue line, and you can precede the play into the zone, skate backwards so that everything is in front of you. You're going to see so much more of what's going on, and you're going to have a much easier time picking up that potential interference play that is on the off wing of the guy trying to hurry up and make the odd man attack even more of a scoring opportunity. So it gives you a much easier time to see the things away from the play and even the things happening behind the play. But skating backwards is definitely one of the best things that you want to do. Be ahead of the play, always. The blue line is the front referee's responsibility, not the linesman if the linesman can't be there. All right, super important. And again, that seems to be in the 2 referee, 1 linesman system. That's the place where we have our biggest issues with coaches and fans and players, because sometimes we're not in the greatest spots and we're pretty much making our best guess. So can't forget about that blue line responsibility. Oh my God, this thing's driving crazy. All right, work the goal line. Front referee, do not just stand there. You've got to be working the goal line. You should be moving. Again, another rule of thumb. Play is on your side of the ice. Your position should be on the goal line or the end boards, about as far out as the dots. Okay. Again, you never want to be on the boards. Give the players a little bit of room or give the puck a chance to miss you. So even if you're going to pick up that end zone spot on the end boards, you want to keep about 6 inches off the board so the puck can miss you if somebody's going to make a quick play and shoot the puck around the boards. Play is on the opposite side of the ice. You should be out away from the boards. Okay. So you want to be play on your side of the ice. You're going to be near the boards, but allow the puck to miss you. Play on the opposite side of the ice. You're going to be away from the boards, out near the dots. You have a lot of freedom on that goal line. And again, you can't call what you can't see. So you can move sides of the net if you need to. Work that goal line as much as possible. Get to where you need to get to see the play. If you are in that corner and the team is setting up a cycle and they're running their play and you're in the way, if it's safe, slide to the other side. And just, you don't want to make that slide if the puck's at the hash marks and somebody's teeing up a slap shot. But you can make that play, you can make that slide around the end boards if the puck is in the corner, if the puck is maybe on the half board. But that goal line position or even back on the end boards, about where the dots are, that gives you a really nice field of vision. Gives you a really good look at the end zone in that zone.
Hey, Garth.
Yeah.
The special situation, as a play is approaching an official who's skating backwards into an end zone. Say the play is coming down the half wall at the blue line. Ideally, that referee should already be well into the zone. Hopefully, if the line is covered on the opposite side. That referee at that point probably has a pretty good idea that play, based on his anticipation or her anticipation and skill and experience, is going to see that play is going to force the official right into that corner, come right on top of them. Would that be a good time early enough to recognize that they may need to swing right around the net early, make an early decision and get to the opposite side of the net to give the players more room and for his or her own safety?
Yes, that's a really good point. If they give you that opportunity, take it. Again, just be careful because there could be players behind you. We don't want to back into players. We don't want to back over somebody's stick because that could lead to injuries for us. But if you have a lane and you're clear and the puck isn't going to be an issue coming at, over the net, yeah, get over there and let the players play. Give the players much more room to play. And then you have, again, wide field of vision. You can see more players and you have a better chance to see any infractions. The other situation, and I think I don't know if it's in here or not, but we'll talk about it. When we're coming into the zone, the worst thing we can do is stop at the top of the circle. That's most of the time where players are going to dump the puck. That's where it's going off the glass to get it deep into the zone. What you're better off doing is taking a couple good steps and trying to get a little bit farther in front of the play instead of pulling up short and letting the play go by you. You're putting yourself in a really bad spot, and there's a lot of guys getting hurt because they're pulling up short to let that play go by, and either they're getting hung up in the body check that the defensemen are making, or they're getting drilled with the puck. All right, again, changing sides of the net, just be aware of the hazards. There is a puck out there, it will do damage. And there are players moving around, so take a look, make sure you have a lane to go, and definitely use it. On the goal line, stoppages. It's hard to teach presence, okay? The idea that the players know that you're there. And a lot of times if the players know you're there, they won't do things to get penalties. A couple of good things that you can do to help make your presence known. I was never a big guy on the ice. I'm tall, but I'm not the biggest guy on the ice. So I always had to work on my presence. And one of the things that I learned pretty quickly was that on a play at the net or a scramble around the net, if I moved to the net on the whistle and I vocalized, the players thought I was there all the time. So that's a really good thing to do. It's a simple thing to do. Even if you're back in the corner and they cycle to play and all of a sudden the play goes to the net and you're back in the corner, when you hit the whistle, continue to get to the net and the players think you're standing there all the whole time. Okay. Again, that builds your presence and allows you to kind of fool the players and let them think that you're always there and always watching them. We've talked about verbalization. A lot of times you can talk them out of things just because you're standing there and, hey, get that stick down, just verbalize, let them know you're there, let them know you're watching them, let them know you see what they're doing. And if I need to, I will take the penalties. All right. Don't be afraid to also tell them, if you've got two guys that are mucking it up, I'm going to take one penalty or we're going to go 4-2. We're not going like Noah did and go 2-2 because we're not going to accomplish anything. So don't be afraid to tell them, I'm looking for the one big penalty. I'm looking for one big penalty and let them know that it's not going to be a 2-2 and everybody plays even. All right. Any questions on front referee, back referee, special situations? I do want to touch base real quick before we start communication on the communication between the front referee and back referee when it comes to penalties, but I'll wait for that, see if we have any more questions.
So Garth, of course, I have a question or a comment.
So obviously we want to take the aggressor if possible in a situation without having, to even things up. But with the realization we're working with emotional, high school kids,
At times there may be an aggressor, but then another time, the retaliation is to the point where you have to end up taking them too. I realize we don't want to have to even it up all the time, that we really do want to take that aggressor. But would you think clearly there's maybe we can, paint an example here in our minds. There's a battle in front of a net and there's a goal mouth scramble and a defenseman is, giving a pretty good headlock and then maybe a face wash to a player who maybe has an opportunity to play the puck in the scramble. Whistle blows. Perhaps you're taking this defenseman for his actions in front of the net, keeping this player from being able to play the puck, the opposition player, obviously. But then the opposition player who's frustrated, didn't get a chance to score, punches the defenseman, in the side or the back of the head. Maybe not knocks him over, but gives him a punch, a jab. I know we can go through situation after situation and try to find out the degrees of which penalty was worse. But in these situations, would you take one from each team?
Yeah, I don't want to come across as saying never take 1-1. There are times when I've got my hand up and I've got a penalty on blue, and the white team turns around and you were going to be on the power play, but you evened it up because you punched the guy in the head or you cross-checked him in the face.
Right.
So yeah, you have to penalize the infractions, and if a player does something that is warranted of a minor penalty or a major penalty or whatever, doesn't matter if you already have another penalty or if you're going to go 2-2, you can go 2-2. You just don't want to go 2-2 all the time.
Right. Gotcha.
You're not really accomplishing anything going 2-2 all the time. Any other questions on front or back referees?
Just to expand real quick on the situation we were just talking about. So if you have somebody, maybe just to clear it up and have some type of understanding of the standard. If you have something marginal and then you have an opposition player does something beyond marginal, now you can take that one player and penalize. Would that be clearer? Okay. Yes.
All right, so let's talk about communicating, and this is going to be a tough one with the referees. The first thing I want to talk about is there's this unwritten rule that you shouldn't call a penalty that's in front of your partner. And I completely, 100% totally disagree with that. I will give my partner the benefit of a doubt in many situations, but if I'm standing on the ice and I see something and I know that my partner from his position can't see it, or my partner just simply doesn't react to it, I'm in a better situation calling that penalty and going into the locker room between periods or at the end of the game and discussing why I called that penalty. It might be a situation where my partner was moving and didn't see it, was looking across the ice and didn't see it. Maybe was too close to see it. Didn't see where the stick actually was. And I may have had a better angle on the infraction. So I've always told guys that I work with, if you think you see something and I didn't react to it, especially in dangerous situations where there are injury potential penalties, put your hand up, call it. We'll talk about it in the locker room. And I don't like the guys that go, don't call penalties in front of me, because we're out there as a team. And I've been doing this since I was 15 years old. I'm 56 now. And when I work my first perfect game, I'm retiring. And I still haven't done it. So nobody's perfect. And we have to be working as a team, and we can't miss, especially the injury potential penalties. All right, so that's how we're going to lead off communication. Let's go to the bench. We're going to the bench. Think about what you say before you say it. And some of the people on this call are going to kind of see some things coming from certain people. They will twist anything that you say. And going to the bench to discuss something may not always be the best time to instill a little bit of humor into the conversation. All right. Some guys are good with it and some are not. I would say it's probably not the best time to try to make a joke or be funny, because it's the heat of the battle and it's not most likely going to be seen as humor. It's going to be taken some other way. So think about what you're saying before you say it, because if it comes out a certain way, somebody's going to turn it, twist it, and make it be something that it wasn't. And again, that's a reason why we should never be there by ourselves. We should always have somebody with us. letting a coach ask a question can diffuse the situation in most cases. All right. But they need to know the proper time to ask that question. You need to know the proper time to respond. And you're not going to respond to every question or every comment. Okay. A 5-on-3 that's going to go for 2 minutes, and a minute into that 5-on-3, coach calls you over and wants to have a conversation with you. That's not a time to go unless there's a major situation on the ice. That's really not the time to go talk to the coach. Coach, let's get the players out. We're going to get going. I'll be there as soon as I can, or I'll talk to you at the end of the period. All right. They're working you. They're going to work for that additional timeout if they can, to kind of slow things down, give guys a rest, let them get some air and relax a little bit. All right. So be very careful if you're going to the bench. You can ask the question. Do not let them control the conversation. You go there, you control the conversation, and you decide when the conversation is done. And it should be brief, and it should be very professional. Avoid getting into, well, what about this? All right.
Garth,
Yeah.
real quick. So I guess every area of the state will have to, I would think, that they know their coaches better. And depending on, this is going back, a minute or so for what you were just talking about, going to the benches. I know some areas of the state, like our group, just based on our history with so many coaches, that we found the best policy is that maybe there's only about 5 times that we're obligated to go to a bench during a game. And those might be a clock malfunction. So we have to explain quickly, the clock malfunctioned and we're going to start back at this time once they reset it. Or a washed off goal, or a serious penalty, or perhaps a penalty where there's an injury. So there's these instances that you're really obligated to go to a bench, or when there's multiple penalties on each side, and there's confusion as to who comes out when. We try to give a quick explanation of that, but at least that's the way we handle it, just because we've had other issues, like you mentioned, with coaches trying to take advantage of a situation or use it as an informal timeout or manipulate momentum in a game. But I guess what you're saying would be, and I'm sure you could comment on this, are you saying that if coaches well enough, and particular coach has a question, and he or she is very professional in how they approach it, and you're able to give them a quick, succinct answer that's to the point and thoughtful, that you can get away with that, hopefully. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, there are coaches that know how to ask a question and when to ask a question, and you could go there and give them a 10-second response and get back to your position, and nobody knows what happened.
Right.
And then there are other coaches that will, this question leads into another question, which leads into another question, which leads into another question. And you just can't do that. You just have to pick your spots. Like you said, the injury potential, the multiple penalty situation, the clock malfunction, and really, in most cases, going to the bench isn't a bad thing. And a lot of times it builds rapport with the coach, because you're communicating with them and trying to help them. But with some coaches, they see it more as a kind of a confrontation. So with those guys, you got to avoid that confrontation.
And if I may add, one thing to keep in mind is, if you have to push a conversation to the end of a period, and you want it to stay professional, you want it to stay fairly quick and to the point, because the can of worms may be opened up and you have spectators watching this conversation. If that is the case and you have to get through this conversation, would you say it's a good idea at the start of the next period to go to the opposite bench and spend equal time quickly telling them I had a conversation with their coach at the end of the period or right in between periods. And I wanted to let you know what the conversation was about. And if the coach or that bench doesn't care, then maybe you just spend a minute saying, I'm going to stay here anyway to look like I'm spending equal time, because perception means a lot to a lot of people. And I just want you to know, maybe you don't feel this way, but for us, we're more comfortable showing equal time at this bench quickly right now before the period starts. And the main reason I say that is, if, for instance, you do spend time with one coach at the end of the period who's upset about something, and you choose not to spend equal time at the beginning before the period starts with the other coach, and the first penalty you call goes against the other team where you didn't spend time with, right away, it looks, or the perception might be, that you were influenced into making that call. I know maybe I'm getting into the weeds a little bit, but wouldn't it be best if you do have to have a conversation with a coach at the end of a period that you spend equal time at the other bench before the start of the next period?
Yeah, absolutely. And then also sometimes if I'm going to talk to one coach at the end of the period, the other coach is standing on the bench. Even though the period's over and they haven't moved to their locker room yet, you could even get away with going back over there and saying, hey, they asked about this, situation, and this is what I told them. So you might want to be heads up and see if, so you're not skating away from the other coach type thing. But yeah, you definitely want to give both coaches, you want them to feel that they've had equal opportunity to talk to you. I guess a good way to say it. Anything else? And I'm sure you guys can hear my dog. He loves to talk when I'm on my Google Meets, especially when I was teaching my 6th and 7th graders. Loves it. All right, let's avoid getting into what about conversations. What about this thing? Well, what about in the first period? Well, what about in the second period? Well, what about, this other play? Those are done. Those are over with. If it was a penalty, we would have called it. So we can't get into the what about conversations. And that also goes hand in hand with, you can only work that game that day. Okay. You can't change what another group did. Well, when we were in Grand Rapids, they did this. Well, we're not in Grand Rapids tonight. It's Saturday night and we're at CompuWare. And you can't change what happened last game. Well, last game, your guys did that. Well, I don't know what to tell you. Tonight, this is what we're doing and this is how we're doing it. You can only work one game, and that's the particular game that you're working that particular night. Again, always try to go to the bench with a linesman or another referee. You might need another set of ears, and it's always good. It's just a CYA, because you never know what can be said about, well, he said this. Well, you know what? Joe Linesman was with me, and he didn't hear it. So, it's just a little bit of a cover for you so that you can't have anybody accuse you of something that you did not do. And unfortunately, we have guys out there that will do that. All right. Questions or comments? And we got a lot of stuff, so feel free to ask on anything that you may have, any situations that you may have. Dan, I see you're unmuted. You got a question? Nope, he muted. Well, I appreciate you guys.
I feel kind of bad because I've asked so many questions, and I don't want to.
All good questions, Dan. All of those questions were so good.
I don't want to hog the talking stick. But it is important that when we do evaluations at the state tournament, that I guess a lot of the things that you had mentioned, we look for, we try to, offer input to, help people think about more, maybe positioning, or help them understand the evaluation process. And like you said, hopefully they'll get better. Nobody has ever officiated the perfect game. And every game we skate, we learned something about ourselves. We learned something about the situations we were in. I would say for me personally, with all of my decades at my age, I always self-evaluate on the way home and wonder, what I could have done better, what I could have seen better, what position I could have been in that was better, if possible. And then any comments or interactions with a coach or a coaching staff member, how can I come up with something not witty, not smart alecky, but how can I address something during a play quickly, which is always a challenge to do it quickly without being arrogant, but being right to the point and telling them. And how do I say it, without turning it into an argument? I really believe that if you can master communications, it's not always what you say, it's how you say it.
Yes.
That gets you in trouble. A lot of times it's what you say too, but if you say something that is sincere, that is not taken sincere because you tried to be a smart aleck or talk down to a coach or a player, a lot of times that will make the situation work. So, I encourage everyone to self-evaluate what you could have done better and how you can communicate if you have to in certain situations. How can you do it better and more to the point, with facts, with just quick facts. This is what I saw. This is what, this was my choice. And we have to move on from here. What can you say that's better?
And that self-evaluating is really good on the ice, but it's really important if when you have a tough night with the benches. And a lot of times, you kind of, I do the same thing and I self-evaluate. And a lot of times it was, I went to the bench and I tried to make a witty comment, or I thought I could, make a little bit of a joke, and it spins out of control and it doesn't go, again, we're dealing with people in the heat of the moment that are emotionally engaged. Humor just a lot of times isn't a very good thing to use in that situation, because it can come off as not humorous. It can come off as, well, he was, sticking it to me. He was arrogant. He was rude. He was this, he was that. So just that self-evaluating, especially the conversations. Where did the conversation go south? What did I say that kind of made it more difficult? Those are always good questions to ask if you had a tough night at the benches. All right. Anybody else?
Please. I would say this too, Garth, that I think it will help everyone, as you and I know, with how often we talk during the season and during the off season, is there are two things that help with us and our rules. Is not only the Federation rules book, but I think everyone has to realize as well that we have the MHSAA adaptations to some Federation rules. And more often than not, I think, and I know I apologize because I know this conversation is more about positioning, but I think, we all, like we do with our own group, we really encourage everyone to know the adaptations, because every season we end up with certain arguments about, does a goalkeeper need to wear a flapper and a neck guard? And yes, that goalkeeper does, and he has had to, or she has had to, for 25 years, 20 years now. And so I encourage people to also know that the game disqualification policy is different with the MHSAA adaptation than it is for what the National Federation Rules Book says it is. The rules book kind of mimics, in a way, USA Hockey with a one-game suspension for DQs, for game disqualification call. Whereas the MHSAA, even though it's not our decision, it's part of the MHSAA adaptation. So the official calls the rules book. But if a DQ is called, the MHSAA, through the agreement of the athletic directors and everybody on the representative council, has agreed that in ice hockey, A DQ warrants an additional game, and it is a multiple after that. So 2 games for the first DQ, 4 games for the second one, and the third one in any given season is actually the player out for the entire rest of the season, including the state tournament. And again, I don't want to hog the talking stick, but these are things year after year after year that seem to be confusing to both, officials and coaches, that people don't seem to know the adaptations. They may just take the rule book for everything and not realize that the MHSAA in each sport, but especially in hockey, that we have more to know than just, another example would be the goal differential rule, or the so-called mercy rule, that it is, again, I don't want to hog the talking stick, but as you know, this comes up every year, that it is 8 goals after 2 periods, the game is over. If it reaches less than 8 goal differential in the first 2 periods, you revert back to stoppage time. If it's 8 goals or more within the first 2 periods, the clock runs. If it's 8 goals or greater after 2 periods, the game is over, based on the goal differential rule. But forgive me for saying this, but I think it's just so important. Plus, there's always on the exam, the ice hockey rules exam, there are always questions regarding some of the adaptations. So I think it's important for officials to know them as well.
Absolutely. I learned very early in my career that a lot of learning goes on either as you're driving from the game with guys, people that you've worked with, or just stopping and having a meal, or having some ginger ales at the local establishment and talking about situations that happened in a game, or maybe not that particular game, but maybe a goofy one that you had happen a couple days ago or a couple weeks ago. There's a lot of learning that goes on, and that gives you the opportunity to pull out the rule book and take a look and say, well, what is the rule? What should we have done? So there's a lot of learning that can go on, just driving to the game, driving from the game, that kind of thing. But getting into the rule book, it certainly makes making the right calls if you can see it and you know what the rule is. All right.
So Garth, based on communication,
Yep.
is there anything you can share with all of your wisdom of why and how maybe you got into officiating real quick, and how we can try to encourage people, former players, high school students, to get into officiating hockey? Because as we know, our numbers are nowhere near what they used to be, and we're going to be extremely challenged in the next 5-7 years to find enough officials.
Well, I can tell you, when I was 15, Allen Park we had a lot of officials, and a lot of my friends were doing it. And that's kind of why I got into it. It was a way to make a little bit of money. I could buy sticks and tape and that. One of the things that we need to start doing is we need to find some of these players that might not be going someplace to play. And, if you want to stay involved, why don't you officiate? Why don't you give it a try? A lot of times the captains are good people to talk to and work with.
Thank you.
All right. Well, I want to thank you guys for showing up tonight, and hopefully there was something that you could take away and build on. Any more questions from anybody? Brent, do you have anything you want to add?
No, I thought that you guys have put together a presentation with a lot of really good information, a lot of good discussion, which is what we want these to be about. Questions asked and comments made. So really appreciate all of you joining us for this evening. This will be recorded. It will be released on July 31st. We are hoping that we get one more ice hockey presentation before then. If not, though, we are shooting for even afterwards, and we'll make sure that gets out to all officials. But we will be releasing this on the 31st. We have a few more presentations for tomorrow as well, in some other sports and also some general officiating ones. Thank you all again for joining us. Have a great season. Please don't hesitate to reach out to me or anyone here in the office if we can do anything for you. Take care. Have a good night.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Brian.
See you, Garth.
See ya.